So for our group project, we did climate anxiety. It's by Brook Dawit, Tucker Hawk, and Henry Viechnicki for CPSG 101. So climate anxiety and introduction. Climate anxiety is a psychological response to stressors stemming from adverse effects of climate change. So what that means is that after large events like natural disasters or climate related weather phenomena, people report basically symptoms of depression, anxiety, and they can even lead to manifestations of domestic violence. And climate anxiety can stem from a variety of factors as climate change affects many facets of society. Some examples would be like transportation, medical, educational, recreational spheres of society that are all disrupted by climate and have a negative impact on someone's emotional or mental well-being.
While we were researching this, we found an interesting kind of dichotomy of the research. We found that some papers focused on the direct effects of climate change on mental health and anxiety. So these are effects that are directly tied to climate change. So something like a heat spike causing increased depression or PTSD from climate disasters like floods. All these sorts of things that happen directly as a result of climate change. And then we found another category of research that focused on the indirect effects, the secondary effects, kind of the ones that happen down the train. These are things that happen, or the mental health consequences of stuff like forced migration, which puts people in new situations, and that is often unwillingly, and that is very detrimental to their mental health. The low crop yields, which force farmers to change jobs or put them in very stressful situations. Increased physical illnesses from those direct effects that we talked about. And we decided to split our research kind of according to that.
We also explored the direct impact on the heat increase. So as the graph shows, the heat fluctuations lead to negative mental health outcomes. These outcomes can be included as increased suicide rates, increased hospitalizations for mental health, and increased violent criminal crime rates.
We also found an indirect impact of climate awareness on mental health. So this climate change is a really big issue for the American public, no matter what politics says about it. Over half of Americans reported climate change was somewhat or a significant source of stress on a survey published by Clayton. This ecological connection of Americans does lead to behavioral and cognitive challenges from climate change. So the more that you were connected to climate change, the more likely you would be to be anxious. But interestingly, you did not gain an increase in the level of anxiety from ecological awareness. So no matter whether you were a tree hugger or whether you just like to look at trees once in a while, we all share the same pressure that climate change puts on us.
All right, climate anxiety and impact on development. So going forward in the future, the impact of climate anxiety on adolescents is going to be a larger and larger issue as people, grow in age and, enter kind of the regular parts of society. So it has a unique effect on children and adolescents, and this is kind of a novel idea. Possible outcomes from this effect of climate anxiety on children and adolescents is it could increase their eco-consciousness and lead to better decision making in the future. But studies have also found that chronic disorders causing functional impairment can also stem from this kind of like early climate anxiety and development. And this all is characterized by Bronfenbrenner's perspective, where it says that development is shaped by your surrounding environment, and climate change introduces stressors into that environment, thus shaping your long-term development.
Climate anxiety, well-being, and pro-environmental action correlates of negative emotional responses to climate change. A study by Clayton and Carazia in 2020 connected the pathological effects of climate anxiety to potential psychological impairment. In short, they connected the effects of climate anxiety to common indicators of psychological unwellness, such as the inability to sleep well, socialization, work, and control in emotional states. In the US, around 1/5 of the people studied reported these effects. Media specifically, content not volume of exposure, is heavily linked to the study. Also found that climate anxiety was not limited to countries immediately affected by the climate change. Climate anxiety was also found and prevalent among adolescents.
Thank you for watching. This was our presentation on climate anxiety.